And then we were ready to start trying to have kids. That message got louder and louder and louder that you are not worthy of good things. God does not have the good things for you. He has them for everyone else. You get infertility and you get loss and you get miscarriage and you get loneliness. This might be the hardest part of the whole story. Y'all, welcome back. We're at season 2 of Stuff God Never Said, and I am so excited you're here with us. Can you even handle this studio update? It is so cool, and I'm so excited to be sharing today the heart behind Stuff God Never Said. I'm going to share a little bit of my testimony, my story, why knowing what God never said and what he did say is so incredibly important, not just to me, but for everybody. It's the entire basis of our faith to know who God is and what he says. So let's go. If you are anything like me, or your story is anything like mine, and you spent years of your life believing the wrong thing about God with your whole entire heart, basing life decisions on that, then this story might be for you. I grew up in a church that was, no, I don't want to say that. I don't want to make the church sound bad. Sorry. Let me just get my bearings for a second. I grew up with a strong desire to please God. I really wanted to know him. I was raised in a family with first generation Christian parents. They were radically saved by Jesus, and they were learning all the things as we were learning all the things. We had some great church communities. We had lots of rules, very black and white. We had evil and we had good, and there is no in between, which isn't necessarily wrong, but it was hard to navigate growing up for sure. But I spent so many years believing wrong things about God, about his character, about who he is, and how it was my job to earn his love. And I would say that did way more harm than good. And I know now with every ounce of my being that is not who God is. He is not a God who makes you earn his love and makes you fight for the good things he has for you. He just wants you. He wants your heart. He wants all of you. He wants your trust. He wants your relationship first and foremost. And he is a good father. And I want to tell everybody that. So it kind of started when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I was like, okay, we talk about God a lot. I think I want him in my heart so I can have the gifts too that he has for everybody around me. We were part of a Pentecostal church, and one of the big themes of that church was the gifts that God gives, whether it's prayer language or being slain in the spirit or whatever thing. If you don't even know what that is, Google it or don't, it's fine. But I will never forget that there was one Wednesday night service that we were at. This was a defining moment for my walk with the Lord as a child. We were at a Wednesday night service. You go to church Sunday morning, Friday night, and Wednesday night, and any event there is, you go to it. That's a big part of it. There's a Wednesday night service, and there was this guest speaker guy, and he had all the kids come forth. I was probably 7 years old at this time. He had all the kids come to the front, and he said, we're gonna slay in the spirit, which is basically the Holy Spirit goes through this guy's hand, I guess, and he touches you, and then you fall back and you go to sleep for a minute, or you're so overwhelmed by the Spirit that you just pass out. And I was up front, and I was kind of nervous, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is all happening to everybody around me. And I've seen the grownups do it, and it's the kids' turn. I felt really special and important. And we were all up there, the whole kids class. And And the guy, is coming down kid by kid and just like barely tapping them and they fall back, and barely tapping them the next one and they fall back. And it's my turn. And I'm like, I have no idea what this is going to feel like, but it is going to be amazing. Like, I've never been overwhelmed by the Holy Spirit before. I can't wait to see it. I was like scared and excited. And he taps my head and I don't fall back. And I was like, wait, why didn't that work? And so he taps my head again and I didn't fall back. And I was like, oh my gosh, my very first thought, I don't remember a whole lot about being 7-ish years old, but I remember my first thought was, what's wrong with me? And he hit my head again and I didn't fall back. And some guy behind me like pulled me back to like sit down while everyone else was laying. And I was humiliated. I was like, something is wrong with me. Everyone else got this thing from God and I didn't get it. I was the only kid that didn't fall down of like all these kids on this side of me and all these kids on this side of me. And I was like, and I remember going home and we did our bedtime prayers with my parents. And I was like, I don't think God's in my heart because that didn't work. It worked on everybody, but it didn't work on me. And, I remember them kind of comforting me and they're like, God works and in different ways for everybody. And I don't remember exactly what they said, but looking back, I know that they were new baby Christians too. And they probably didn't have all the answers. No one has all the answers, but they didn't, they were doing their best. I know that they were, and I know they believed we had a good God and they instilled that in me. And I am forever thankful for that. But I remember that night, I said, I want to pray again for Jesus to come in my heart, which, for the record, I want to say, believing a little tiny spirit of Jesus was going into my heart as a kid, and he was either there or he wasn't. And if he wasn't, then I didn't get his good gifts. I just had to pray for him to please keep just every night. So from that night on, every single night I would pray, please be in my heart. Please come in my heart so that I can have good things from you, so that you can know me and I can know you and I can be one of your kids. I want to be one of your kids. And I just prayed it every night and I believed it. Because kids believe everything we teach them. They believe what we have to say about pretty much everything. And so we need to tell them the truth. They not only need to know what God didn't say, they need to know exactly what he did say. And that is extremely important. That is a huge passion of mine, is telling the truth to kids about who Jesus is and who he isn't. So prayed. Then summer camp came along, church summer camp. My sister and I went, my dad came, and there was a night. It was like a worship night and a pause in the worship. And they were like, okay, now we're all going to ask the Lord to download in us a prayer language. Just ask him, if you're his kid, he's going to give you the things you ask for. It's a whole nother thing we'll get into another time. But they said, just ask for your prayer language and he'll just download this language that's just between you and him. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask him and I'm going to believe. And I've been praying every night that he's going to be in my heart and it's going to happen. I'm going to get my prayer language. And I prayed and I was like, I know you're going to do it because that's what everyone says that you do. And everyone around me, again, all the kids were speaking in their own little babble prayer language. And I didn't get one. And I was like, maybe I must be doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong that all these things that are from God are going to everyone else, but not to me? I must be doing something wrong. And I dug in and I remember just that human nature that we all have. I remember digging into, how can I be better? How can I do better? How can I, meet him where he's at? I have to do, I need to impress him more for him to notice me. Look at me, Dad, and so I focused on that. I was like, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be nicer. I'm going to share my toys more. I'm going to just that innocence of a child that was just trying to earn her father's love. And that's never been what this is about. I just didn't understand that yet. The lie that I believed in my childhood, both about myself and about God, is that I was unworthy, that I was defective, that something was wrong with me, that everybody else around me deserved the good things, the gifts, and I wasn't called to that. I believed that from the time I was 7 years old. Fast forward to being 14 years old. Some more confusing messages about God that I got. My parents were getting divorced, and I remember them telling me that God said it's okay. And by that point, I was a teenager. I already had some natural rebellion in my little heart. And I was like, who is this God who doesn't just withhold gifts, but he's supposed to be loving and the same yesterday, today, and forever, but he says things are bad and then he says it's fine. And then he's like, but don't do that. But I give you permission to do that. I was so confused about the messages I had received from people I trusted, people I loved, about God, about who God was, about what he said, about what he didn't say. Seeing a theme here. This is very, very important. To put it simply, I just believed the gossip I had heard about Jesus. I believed all of it. And I was too angry to put application to it. I didn't take the time to study his word and try to figure it out. And I just decided that whatever, like I can't be loved by this guy. I'm never going to be good enough. He's inconsistent anyway. So I'm just going to like do whatever I want and hope that he shows up one day, because what is the difference? What difference does it make? And that led me down a really painful path. I just was looking for love from, wrong people, the cool girls, the fun guys, I love a fun time. I love having fun. So that had just become my focus. How can I have fun and be loved? And when that doesn't work, I'll try it a different way. And it just led down a really painful, lonely path. And I think that that's probably true for a lot of us. It just, whatever mistake was there to be made, I made it. And all the while, I truly did still love God. I fully believed he could not love me. And the longer I stayed on the path of chasing the brief moment of happiness or the brief moment of peace or the brief moment of relief from pain, the more that lie sunk in, that like, well, now he can't love me. Now he definitely can't love me. Now, like for sure, there's no chance. Like if he didn't love me when I was good, he's definitely not gonna love me when I'm bad. And I was stuck there. I was stuck there for way too long. I was just filling my time with whatever would fill my time and feel as good as possible. That was the goal. Just feel as good as possible. If I couldn't be redeemed, if I couldn't be loved, I would feel good one way or the other. It was going to happen. So obviously that led into lots of rebellion. And if you haven't picked up on this fact by now, I was a fairly opinionated, loudmouth, rebellious child. And those things can totally work for the kingdom, or they can absolutely work against you and destroy your life, which led to many severed relationships and heartbreak and confusion and chaos that was not necessary in my life. And that even included my parents. That relationship was really rocky, to the point where I had left home, and I just could not say everything I was thinking all the time to everyone. And that's just not wisdom. The Bible speaks very clearly many times against doing that. So don't do that. But I didn't know that. So I just was like, someone needs to say it. That was like my tagline. Someone needs to say it. So I'll say it. Which, funny enough, someone compared me the other day to Peter, which I kind of took as a compliment. But what they said was kind of cute. And I also was like, wow, I need to work on that still. They said, you're kind of like Peter, where he would always say something that needed to be said, but he also would say something if it didn't need to be said. And I was like, valid. I'll bring that to the Lord. Thank you. But needless to say, having so much anger and hurt in my heart with that level of vocalness, it just wasn't a good combination, and it brought a lot of mess and a lot of pain. So, so there was a time where my relationship with my parents had been severed, and it was really hard, and it kind of added even to that message that I received, that you are not good enough. You are not worthy enough of this. And that was, I absolutely have a huge part in that. And it's just a lie that I had believed from childhood, that I was not worthy of love. And I think that lie, had that lie not already been there, things would have looked really, really, really different in my life. So I, early in college, moved in with a really great, sweet, loving family, who saw what a mess my life was and what a mess I was, and how I could not navigate up from down and left from right. And they were like, we can help you. And they were actually my youth pastors. So they had known me, they had known my family, and they took me in. They're amazing, gracious family, now pastors of an incredible church. And their focus was the mission field. At the time, they had a Bible study, and I joined that. And I had always had a place in my heart for mission. Since I was a little kid, I was drawn to Africa. I would watch those, what was it, the Bob Hope commercials with the kids with the flies on their faces. And I was like, I have to go there. I have to go there. Like, I always knew I had to go. I would cry as a kid. I mean, like, that's where I belong. I have to go there. And so I don't think that was a mistake, that God aligned that calling in my heart that was on my life from the time he knit me together in my mother's womb, and brought that family closer and closer to me. And I do feel like that was really the beginning point of his redemptive love, just chasing fiercely after his little lost lamb. He's so good, and he's so kind. So from there, I went to college for a couple years, and I was like, this is just not for me. And so I went to the mission field in my late teens, early 20s, where I had experienced so much beauty and joy in people who had nothing, and people who were broken, even more broken than I was. And I saw the power of the real, true God moving in miraculous ways for so many years. The things that I saw, the things I got to experience, they were not all fantastic. There were very, very hard things about being in the mission field. I saw so much, and I got to experience a whole lot about life in the whole world, not just our American Christianity in the Bible Belt at that. And it was just a wild experience in all aspects: good, bad, ugly, hard, beautiful, redeeming. Definitely added to brokenness. There were times in countries where I did experience abuse, and I was in really scary situations, and God showed up every time. Yeah, we can talk more about that another time. I feel like that's its own podcast episode. My season of ministry work through the mission field was heavy, and it was beautiful. And I was absolutely still holding that lie that I believed with all my heart, that I was not worthy of love, because I just wasn't worthy of love, and I had to earn it. And I don't think I ever would have been able to put words to it at the time. But looking back, I know that I thought if I could connect with my Heavenly Father, doing his work with him, for him, then he would meet me there and he would be like, now I love you. Now I see you. Now you're worthy. I did believe that. I don't think I knew I believed that, but I did believe that while he was giving me example after example after example of how he loves me, how he loves his kids. I was getting to watch through this new lens of people who had nothing to give him, glorifying him and praising his name and having miracles happen and, you know, watching limbs grow back and crazy stuff. Like they can't do anything and he's showing up for them. Why is it any different for me? So those seeds of healing and those moments of him meeting me right where I am were starting to come to the surface and starting to be visible to me where I'm like, okay, maybe I am worthy. Maybe he does love me. It's time for a fun part now. So I had come home recently from Nepal, and one of the things that I experienced time and time and time again was being a missionary in a culture different than mine, and people assuming I was a doctor or a nurse or some kind of medical person, and they would hand me someone like a sick baby and be like, help. And I'm like, I'm just white. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to help you. And so I came home and a dear friend of mine, he was my best friend in middle school. He had been a paramedic for several years by this point. This is like 2013, 2014. He had been a paramedic. His dad was a director of a college of EMS. And I was like, you know what? I just need some real quick life-saving medical training. I'm back in the country, for a few months, but like I can extend it so that I can know how to like do something when someone hands me a sick baby or like kid with their arm hanging off or something crazy. Like I need something. So we met, I reached out to Cody, my friend Cody, and we met for coffee, and he was such a good friend of mine from middle school. We went to different high schools, so we kind of lost touch a little bit because it was pre-social media. So if you were on different sides of town, you just weren't in each other's lives anymore. So when I reached out to him, he was like, oh my gosh, so good to hear from you. Yeah, let's get coffee. And we got coffee, and I was like, here's what I do now. And I need medical training. Do you think I could go to EMT school? What's that look like? And he was like, yeah, that's cool. Anyway, like, how's your life? You're really pretty. And I was like, and you got muscles, sir. And it was so good. We sat there at coffee. We talked for 3 hours about Jesus and what he had done in our lives. And 4 months later, we were married. And that's how my husband and I reconnected. It was the best. Marriage was so unique. Going from thinking I was getting coffee with a guy so I could leave the country again to ending up marrying him in a very short amount of time. Total plot twist from what I would have guessed. And it was awesome. And it was hard because I was the world's most independent female. And then I was married and I had to like tell someone what I was doing and like think about how I spent money. And that was just weird. But it was so good. So refining. Those early days of marriage are really sweet when you're just trying to figure out this new life together. But yeah, so we had a sweet, sweet couple years in this sweet little house in the country. And then we were ready to start trying to have kids. And this might be the hardest part of the whole story. A couple years into marriage, we started to try to have some babies. And it did not work well at all. Everyone says, oh, you don't tell anyone when you're trying, so it can be a surprise. And then once you're pregnant, you don't tell anyone for like 12 weeks because you could lose the baby. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, by the way. If that's like a rule you're trying to follow, if it works for you, great. But that rule made my life so much harder than it ever needed to be for a good 2 years. because I was walking the infertility and miscarriage journey completely alone with a husband who was as clueless about it as I was. So I'm just going to put that out there. But long story short, we had, I have endometriosis, and I had always had a really hard time with girl things and all that. But, so we knew it might take some time, but we had no idea that it would be as difficult as it was. I had a miscarriage really early in pregnancy, or really early in marriage. Like a few weeks into marriage, we had experienced a miscarriage, and that was hard, and unexpected and scary. But then when we were actively trying again, it was so lonely. It was so lonely. So by this point, we were in our mid to late 20s. And in the South, by the time you're in your mid to late 20s, most people around you have high schoolers. They just get married and start popping them out at like 18. So we just felt really like, where do we belong? We don't have kids yet. We're pushing 30. Didn't have much of a community, and it just was hard. And on top of it, I was holding that to myself, because the rule, which why I chose to follow this rule when I never followed rules is beyond me, but I did. I thought that's what you did. So I was just like experiencing like intense loneliness, and like not talking about the thing that mattered most to me, and trying to navigate marriage and intimacy in marriage through this very disconnecting period of time. It was just so hard and lonely. And on top of that, that message got louder and louder and louder, that you are not worthy of good things. God does not have the good things for you. He has them for everyone else. You get infertility, and you get loss, and you get miscarriage, and you get loneliness. And I held to that. And I wish more than anything that I had invited loving community into that season, so that they could be speaking against those lies and praying against those lies and walking with me. But that's not what I did, because you're not supposed to. Anyway, actually, I want to tell this story really quick. So it's actually about this tattoo. I had this idea. I went on a mission trip before I had kids. It was in the thick of infertility. And I was like, we're going to Northern Africa. It was a Muslim country. It was one of my favorite places in the world, maybe my favorite place in the world. Went on this trip, got introduced to this missionary. She was an older, a missionary from a long time ago. She was in the 1800s, named Lilias Trotter. She was amazing. And she had basically given up her dreams of becoming an artist to move to Africa by boat, say goodbye to her family forever, and move to Africa to start an orphanage for Muslim kids. And so I was like reading some of her work, and she had this incredible art. She like was really, really good at flowers. Well, I got some, I saw that, and I was like, I'm going to get Lilias Trotter's flowers tattooed on my shoulder. But you're not supposed to if you think you're going to be pregnant, or you could be pregnant or whatever. So you're not supposed to get a tattoo. So I didn't. So I put it off and put it off and put it off and put it off. And finally, after several years of putting it off, I was like, I'm just going to get this tattoo that Lilias Trotter did, because I'm so sick of waiting, and I'm so sick of just sitting here and doing nothing and like putting off dreams that are like really important to me because I might be pregnant. I was like, I'm just going to get the tattoo. So I made an appointment. It was like 3 or 4 months out or something. And I brought the art, and I was like, this is what I want. And he was like, are you pregnant? And I was like, no, I'm not pregnant. And so he does the tattoo, and this is 2017, the end of 2017, he does the tattoo, and I'm obsessed with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at my tattoo. It's so cool. And, the next day I wake up, and I was like, okay, I'm about to start my period. I'm just going to go ahead and take a pregnancy test, because that's what I did every month forever. And would you believe it, was pregnant with my daughter, whose name is Lilias, after the artist and the missionary. So I just want to encourage you that God is Dude, he is in every single little detail, and he knows your story, and he knows your kids' stories, and he is with you, and he is for you, just like he is for me. And I still, to this day, have to tell myself that. I still have to remind myself that you are worthy. God does love you. You don't have to earn it. That is, if I am just being really honest right now, like every day I wake up and I have to fight that feeling of unworthiness, that feeling of less than, that feeling of, okay, what needs to be done to be loved? Not just in my relationship with God, but even with my husband and with my friends I really, really struggle with that. Just because the Lord is healing me does not mean that the enemy stops attacking. He has healed me. He has restored me. He has brought me life. He has answered prayers. And I have to stay ready to fight the enemy, who will remind me of that one message I have been told by him my whole entire life, that you are not worthy of good things, because that is a straight up lie from the pit of hell. In Jesus' name, amen. The redemption, I think, to some of that lie that I believed. So I held on to that lie so tight my entire life, that I'm not worthy of being his kid. I don't think that I would have really understood the vast importance of what it means to be someone's kid if he didn't allow me to long so much and grieve so much over the desire for having a child. And then when I met my child, both of my children, the amount of awe struck that I had no words for it. And I was like, if this is how God feels about me, and supposedly more, like, I need to shut my mouth. I need to stop believing this lie, because there's nothing in this world that could stop me from loving and giving this precious child every good thing, even if it's a hard thing, every good thing that she needs ever, because of my love for her. And she can do nothing for me. Not only can she do nothing for me, she talks back to me, and she has a little rebellious, spicy attitude that I don't know where she got from. And she does all the things that I thought made me unworthy, and they actually only make her more worthy of everything I could ever give her. Oh, it's so good. He used my most broken, my most lonely, my most sad and ugly seasons to show me how worthy I am of his love. And that is kindness, that he allowed me to walk through infertility, not just once, but twice, because he knew that I would forget so quickly. So after Lilius was born, we were like so smitten. We wanted so many more kids, so many more babies. It was so beautiful, that season of parenthood and newborn and the baby, and watching them do everything for the first time and experiencing the world around them. And so pretty quickly we were like, hey, that took forever. Let's start sooner this time and see if we want a gap. Isn't it cute how we try to plan our lives? If we want like a 2-year gap, then maybe let's start trying it around 6 months. Well, it's 6 months. When Lilius was 6 months old, I got pregnant the first time. And I was like, what is this life? Like, the Lord healed me, and I'm like, I can have babies, and this is so great. And so we shared the news with our family, and I no longer wait 12 weeks ever, just in case anyone at home is wondering. So we pretty much shared right away, and everyone was so excited, because they're towards the end of longing for our first baby. We started to tell people, like, this is what we're walking through, and this is some really hard stuff. And so the second time around we shared, and everyone was like, this is so good. God's healed you. We're so grateful. And we were so celebratory. So, So I had a 6-month-old and we were going to have 2 way under 2 and it was going to be amazing. And at about 12 weeks, it was just the perfect storm of things that had gone wrong. I tried to go in for an ultrasound a few weeks prior, but I switched doctors and the new patient appointment wasn't available for a couple extra weeks, but they were like, since you just had a baby, you're probably fine. So we'll just get you in at the 12, 13 week mark. And I was like, that's fine. Everything's going good. Well, one morning I woke up and I was experiencing a little bit of bleeding and something just fell off. My shoulder hurt really bad, really, really bad. And I was like, something's wrong. Something is wrong. So I went to any doctor that would take me. I was like, I'm not a patient. I don't have an established doctor right now. I'm between doctors. Can I just come in for an ultrasound? I'm 12 weeks pregnant and something feels off. And they were like, yeah, come on in and we'll get you an ultrasound. And it was the beginning of the worst day of my life. They did the ultrasound and they were like, are you sure you're pregnant? And I was like, yeah, I'm very sure. I've gotten blood work. I've taken lots of tests. I saw the whatever levels double in 48 hours and all the things. And they were like, we don't see a baby in there. And so they did one more scan and they found that the baby boy was in my tube and couldn't make it to my uterus. And I was rushed to emergency surgery where my life was saved. His was not. And it was just all one big blur. And it was really hard. And at the same time, while holding grief and fighting that you deserve this mentality, you're not worthy of good things. Of course, your baby's dying. While fighting that in the name of Jesus, he gave me so much peace and so much joy. I remember talking to the nurses carrying me into surgery or pushing me into surgery. I remember talking to them about Jesus and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm honestly really good. I honestly, I know that God's going to use this. And do you know Jesus? And let's talk about what he's done and who he is. And they were like, okay, has anyone given you drugs yet? And I was like, no, they haven't. This is the Lord. Or probably half the Lord, half shock, or half shock and completely the Lord. But his hand was with me. And then, my husband and I walked through that really hard season really publicly with our entire community. And it was so different than the other losses that we had experienced. We were surrounded. People brought us meals and gave gifts and showed up and prayed with us and just sat with us. And I was like, this is such a better way to grieve than to lock yourself in a room and cry and tell yourself you're dumb for being sad, which is what I did before. So we got through that. And then, the Lord just, he showed up and I'm so thankful. But we thought, okay, well, that was so easy to get pregnant. We'll just try again when my body's healed up. And it didn't take for another 3 years. I wasn't able to get pregnant for another 3 years. I had one more miscarriage between in that time. And man, was it a battle to allow the Lord to speak to me and not let the enemy's voice creep in. But then we got our second miracle girl in 2022. And let me tell you what, I make this morbid joke all the time, but it's funny because it's accurate. I always say only the strongest could survive my uterus because both of my girls are so fierce and so funny and so full of life and completely unfiltered at all times. And I just am so grateful that the Lord saw us fit to be their parents because it is just the biggest answered prayer. And I cannot believe the good things that he has had for me in this life. So the reason all of this is being shared with you today, the reason for Stuff God Never Said is because we all have our version of believing stuff God never said, believing what he said to us, about us, about himself. There's a version of this that we all carry and we all live with. And that is not what God has for us. He has so much more for us than the thing that God never said. So the heart behind this podcast is that it's that we would seek his words and his truth over the lies the enemy spits at us and even that other people spit at us. As we were walking through infertility, once we started kind of telling people what we were walking through, we had so many people say such wrong things, such wrong things. One of my favorites that I heard the absolute most was just stop thinking about it. You're stressing yourself out too much to let your body get pregnant. You just stop thinking about it. Okay, no, God never said that. He did not say that. But time and time again, there were lies to be combated from others and from the enemy. My heart for this podcast, for this ministry is that whatever is being thrown at you will be fought with the truth of who God is and what he says. If you want to join us by partnering through a one-time donation, sponsoring an episode, or a monthly donation, you can click in the show notes and find a donate button, and you will be part of our team. Thank you so much.